Origins and ideals. Capitalism, in its modern form, began to take shape in the Industrial Revolution of the 18th century, particularly in Europe and North America. It was driven by the change from an agrarian system to an industrial one, with increasing urbanization and expansion of trade. Capitalism is based on private ownership of the means of production and the individual's search for economic benefit. Free markets, competition and free enterprise are key pillars of capitalism. On the other hand, communism, based on the theories of Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels, emerged in response to the inequalities and exploitation they saw in the capitalist system. Marx and Engels advocated the abolition of private property and the creation of a classless society, where goods and production are controlled collectively and distributed according to the needs of each individual. The Cold War, the struggle between these two ideologies manifested itself primarily during the Cold War, 1947 to 1991, a period of intense political and military rivalry between the United States and the Soviet Union, the two leading powers representing capitalism and communism respectively. This tense relationship gave rise to indirect conflicts, spread of ideologies, development of nuclear weapons, and global political divisions. The confrontation included the arms race and competition for global influence, with the Soviet Union supporting communist regimes and the United States supporting anti-communist governments in different parts of the world. Development in the 20th century. During the 20th century, communism was established in several countries, most notably the Soviet Union, China, Cuba, and other Eastern European countries. These states implemented centralized economic plans and state control over the production and distribution of goods and services. However, as the century progressed, the lack of individual freedoms, centralized planning, and stagnant economies in many communist states led to challenges and discontent. In the 1980s, significant changes occurred. Mikhail Gorbachev, Soviet leader, introduced reforms of openness, glasnost, and restructuring, perestroika, seeking to modernize and democratize the Soviet Union. These reforms, along with economic pressures, led to the collapse of the communist regime in Eastern Europe and eventually to the disintegration of the Soviet Union in 1991. After the Cold War, most former communist countries opted for transitions towards more democratic political and economic systems, and some adopted mixed approaches with market economies and greater political openness. Currently, most countries adopt economic systems that combine elements of capitalism and socialism, adapting them to their specific needs and contexts. Current impact. The struggle between capitalism and communism has left a lasting legacy in contemporary politics, economics, and culture. Although the Cold War has ended, tension between different ideologies and approaches persists in many areas of the world. The ideological differences between these two systems continue to be a relevant topic in global political and economic discussion, with influence on national and international policies. The competition between economic and political models continues to shape the current and future reality of our society. Capitalism is an economic and social system that is characterized by several fundamental elements that influence the organization of the production, distribution, and consumption of goods and services. Below are the main aspects and characteristics of capitalism. 1. Private ownership of the means of production. In capitalism, the means of production, such as factories, land and resources, are privately owned and controlled by individuals or companies. 2. Free enterprise and free market. It is based on competition and supply and demand. Businesses operate in a market where prices for goods and services are determined by supply and demand, and consumers are free to choose what to buy and at what price. 3. Price system. Prices are determined by the market and reflect the amount of resources necessary to produce a good or service, as well as the demand for that good or service. 4. Profit and seeking benefits. Companies seek to obtain economic benefits and growth through the production and sale of goods and services. 5. Innovation and technology. Competition encourages innovation and technological development to improve efficiency and productivity. 6. Laissez-faire and minimum state intervention. In classical capitalism, minimal government intervention in the economy is advocated, allowing market forces to operate autonomously. 7. Social mobility. There is the possibility of upward or downward mobility in society based on economic success and individual merit. 8. Hiring and the labor market. Companies hire employees and workers for an agreed wage to produce goods and services. Workers seek employment that provides them with adequate wages and acceptable working conditions. 9. Consumption and consumer choice. Consumers have the freedom to choose what goods and services to buy with their money, which encourages variety and adaptation to consumer preferences. 10. Capital accumulation. The accumulation of capital and wealth is encouraged through investment, savings and reinvestment of profits for economic growth. 11. Competition and private companies. Many private companies compete with each other to gain market share and make profits. 12. Economic diversification. The capitalist economy encompasses a variety of industries and economic sectors that include agriculture, manufacturing, services, technology, health, education, among others. These characteristics define the essence of capitalism and how it works in economic and social terms. It is important to highlight that the implementation and practice of capitalism can vary in different countries and over time, giving rise to different capitalist forms and models. Communism is a political, economic, and social system that seeks to establish a classless society where the means of production are common property and controlled by the community as a whole. Here are the main aspects and characteristics of communism. 1. Collective ownership of the means of production. In communism, the means of production, such as factories and land, are collectively owned and controlled by the community or the state on behalf of the community. 2. Centralized planning. The communist economy is centrally planned to meet the needs of the population and eliminate exploitation. Decisions about what to produce, how and for whom are made at the central level. 3. Absence of social classes. The objective is to eliminate social class differences, providing equal opportunities and access to goods and services for all. 4. Reduction of inequality. Seeks to reduce economic and social inequality through the equitable distribution of resources and wealth. 5. State or community control. Ideally, the state plays an important role in managing the economy and distributing goods and services to ensure equality. 6. No money or free market. In an ideal communist society, money and markets do not exist, and the allocation of resources is based on planning and the needs of the community. 7. Long-term planning. Focuses on long-term planning to achieve social, economic and technological development objectives. 8. Internationalism and global solidarity. Advocates unity and cooperation among nations to achieve a global communist society without borders or conflict. 9. Gender equality. Seeks to eliminate gender discrimination and achieve complete equality between men and women in all aspects of life. 10. Education and collective consciousness. Education and collective consciousness are emphasized to create a society where everyone understands and contributes to communist goals. 11. Criticism of capitalism. Considers capitalism as an exploitative system and seeks to replace it with a more equitable and collective system. 12. Transition to communism. According to communist theory, it is necessary to go through a socialist stage before reaching full communism, where society transitions towards common property and distribution according to needs. It is essential to mention that, although these are the ideals of communism, in practice, countries that have sought to implement communism have faced challenges and have often seen the persistence of hierarchies and inequalities in society. I hope you liked the video, and if so, leave me a thumbs up and subscribe to me until I see a next video.